of people just debating, but they're just not really getting their points across.
Are they just yelling for the sake of yelling? Because
yeah,
yeah,
I've actually, like Nick, who was on here recently. I think it's Nick, the ENTP.
yeah, I know Nick.
He lives in North America too. He was telling me that like people just walk up to you and start fucking yelling in your face, like just start screaming nonsense like bah, and so that you don't have the opportunity to.
Well, I know that Nick lives in a town that's different. I know that Nick lives in a different, I think, area than me. So maybe in his area that's normal to have people screaming or something. I don't think anyone has ever screamed in my face around here. But I live like more like like New York City, like East Coast.
Oh, okay.
More in I forgot what his town was. It's Ohio and Tennessee.
More civilized suburb of America.
Yeah, I mean I wouldn't. I don't know if civilized is the right word.
Screaming in your face is not fucking civilized.
Okay, no, that's not civilized, but I don't know about Nick. Like, I don't know where he's been. Like, what parts of town is he walking around? Because, you know, you go to any city.
I think he said he's from New York, actually.
No. Wait, Nick, glasses, I don't know how to describe his hair.
It's Nick or Shane.
Oh, maybe. Shane has, like dark hair. Nick has, like, lighter hair.
Yeah, no, the darker hair, and Shane's like more, I don't know, tranquil. Nick seems a bit more jumpy.
Energy. So was it Shane that said that?
Yeah, Shane said that people just start screaming in your face, like when you go up to a protest. If you
a protest. I never been to a protest, so that makes sense.
If you hold an ideology that is counter to like opposite ideologies, then Republican, Democrat, or I don't know what else is over there, but I'm assuming that's the main dichotomy.
Well, yeah, if you go to a protest where everyone there is extremely emotional and upset about one point, whatever you call it, one side, and then you come there and you say the exact opposite thing, I think they're not going to respond rationally or civilly, especially when there's a whole bunch of other people being angry. They'll just hype themselves up even more. So, that would make sense. Someone's just start screaming.
But it doesn't make sense to me, because when people have counter opinions or counter views to my own, to me at least, that means it's like an opportunity to understand something new. It's like, okay, this means that I should really be listening to this person in order to understand where they're coming from, because I clearly don't know where they're coming from.
Well, that's a very open-minded and kind of smart thing to do. There's people out there who don't want to hear it, like even with my own family. Like sometimes like they have a certain opinion and I don't really get upset by a lot of things, but then when certain subjects are just like talked about and it's just like, okay, how do you mean by that? Why do you not like this? Why does this make you feel this way? Why do you see the point as like this being bad? I start questioning them, and at the end of it, it seems time after time it doesn't sink in. So they're not receptive to seeing a different perspective.
It seems like there's a endemic, systemic problem, because it's prevalent and it's getting fucking worse. Like I watch these protests and it's honestly giving me so much less incentive to travel to the US, because
just avoid protests. Just only go to our restaurants with hamburgers and fries and what the hell else does America have? I don't know what else good things we have. Yeah, I don't know enough of like good tourist places. Mostly it's just food and landscapes is what I think is really nice.
Yeah. Have you like traveled outside of the US?
Um, one time I did when I went to visit family in Asia,
Oh,
so
okay. Where in Asia did you go?
the Philippines.
Nice.
It's a lot
I
different than here.
Yeah, I think I want to travel to Cambodia or Thailand or Myanmar, Nepal, Tibet.
Yeah, that'd be
I
cool.
want to hike the mountains in those countries. But like I don't know, maybe I'll go to Japan too or Taiwan. But China just seems too crowded to go. I don't really have much incentive to go to China.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I would just get kidnapped or something. To be honest, I don't trust myself traveling alone. Oh, night uni. But yeah, I don't quite trying to think of why. Hmm. See, trying to think of like reasons of why people like and protest, or not even just protest, but like tend to follow a certain way. Um, Kind of seems complicated because I don't know all the answers, and I feel like there's tons of variables and factors to like make it one easy explanation. There's like a whole bunch of things where
Yeah, I get what you
comes
mean. It's like
together.
it's not coming from a single source. Like the media is responsible,
For some of
and
it.
the lack of individual thought, the responsible herd mentality, just poor education to
Yeah, I would say that was a
to the
big one.
education system, um, just the widespread corruption in the US. Um,
I would say the corruption and the
yeah,
education is a big one because when kids are young, they're pretty susceptible and stuff. Like if they were younger and they were more encouraged to think critically and challenge stuff, then I think it would have a bigger effect when they're older, the generation following. But
yeah, for
it
sure.
doesn't work like that. There's a whole bunch of things. It's a mess.
I've actually read a few articles from teachers in the US, just who had been teaching there for like decades, and now they've just said, "I've given up on culture. I've given up on the country. I don't see any improvement. So I can't like the teaching is just too depressing, and I can understand why that is the case when like people don't honor education. They just see it as more like a chore. It's like I need to go to school, otherwise people will look at me as if I am not an educated person. But the purpose you go to school is to learn to begin with. It's like I don't know. It's so messed up.
Well, for
It's
here,
it, it,
it's by law. We have to go to school. So there was times where it's like, man, this is pointless. I don't want to go, but by law, I have to. Why? There's not really much incentive to go. There wasn't really much for me to be excited about. And also, like, I forgot where it was. This was a long time ago, so I don't even remember the source. I read somewhere about like the education system here. It's kind of based. It was no, okay, Zach left. It was based on was it like the industrial age? So everything would be like a factory line style, making things in batches, and that's why the classes were made almost like in batches because it's by age group, and everyone would be going on to the
oh,
next
okay.
grade. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that does make sense. We are kind of made in like a batch, and it's like a whole bunch of us. Which I mean, there is a lot of people, so I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense, but it's sort of outdated. I feel like it is
Yeah.
because there's a lot of different types of kids with different ways of learning. Like I notice, I'm a bit of like I'm more of an intuitive type. So usually, But at the same time, I'm slow with learning things. My pace is not as fast. I
Yeah.
usually don't grasp onto facts that well or details.
Yeah.
I have to learn it in an associative kind of manner, and I have to usually visualize it. And
Yeah.
I had to do something a little more engaging than just reading text and remembering,
Yeah.
like especially numbers. I cannot remember numbers for my life. And on
Right.
the other side, I would notice other kids who are more sensor types. They're more hands-on. Actually, I learn good hands-on too because it helps me, I don't know, engage more and visualize things, but I think that's just me. But
Yeah.
kids who tend to be I would, especially writing class, I would notice they would struggle worse than I do. Um, it would be very difficult for them because it's like the way they learn is usually more active and hands-on and like with the physical concrete. And when you're in writing class, you're asked to write something really abstract. It's difficult for them, and like this education system doesn't fit for everyone. It's only I noticed for certain types of people, and people who found motivation in themselves to actually put in the work do well. There's people who naturally do it easily because it fits with them. And then there's people who
Yeah.
decided or found motivation in themselves to do the work, even though it's not fun for them. Because, I don't know, somehow they found some motivation to do well
Yeah.
because, like, oh, if I do well, I'll get a scholarship, I'll go to a good school, I'll be able to get a good job and do whatever goal I have.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking
I
their thinking
suppose.
is. For me, it's a little more
I
difficult.
suppose if yeah, I suppose like the vast majority of humans are like wired down to their neurology to focus on extrinsic values, to focus on group thinking, to focus on um, just the external consensus of what's right, which is almost always wrong. So I could imagine that the huge problem is the lack of ability to garner intrinsic value focused toward education. Like, like it's a huge problem here in Australia too. But I can, it's just so obvious that it's prevalent in the US. Like, especially when I look at the protests and stuff, it's just like, holy fuck. Like, this shit looks like people are devolving. Like, it looks like people are literally devolving. Like, it's.
Yeah.
I swear in Australia, I like not. I don't mean to put my country like on a pedestal or anything, but we're not that bad. Like, we don't have protests and like argue with each other in the same way that you guys do, where we don't take in any opinions at all. And just vomit our feels. Like, we actually do listen to, like, we're pretty uneducated on the whole. We have shitty infrastructure. We have shitty um, internet. The NBN's like really crap here, and the trains only go like 100 kilometers per hour or something. So like all of our infrastructure is like poor quality, but we still have the capacity to listen to other people. And I don't know, it just seems like that capacity in the US is decreasing, and that's a concerning thing, and that gives me no incentive to visit there. It's just like, yeah, it's just,
When I see like crazy protests like that, I feel a lot of the crazy ones would kind of go there, if that makes sense. Like, I can have a disagreement and have a strong opinion about something, but I'm not going to go out there. If I personally was going to go and have a protest, the way I would want it would be with a group, or at least in a way or a fashion that would be civil, peaceful, and being able to freely speak my mind and express myself without any harm or danger to anybody. That's how I would go
yeah,
about it. But,
yeah,
like the crazy things you see out there, I'm like, I wouldn't feel safe. Why would I want to be with other
yeah,
people doing such things? I would be upset at other people, doing destructive stuff that would be against the cause, that would not make us look um, civilized or be taken seriously, just a threat or a bunch of hooligans just, trash